shit up there that was like buried or whatever, and then they like in the end they're just like, yeah, so we just covered it all back up and we're waiting for like another team of archaeologists to come that's more experienced than us and shit. But even just the one building up there that no one can explain why it's up there, and yeah, it's insane. But like this Tom dude said, the fucking there is on paper like 500 churches in Adelaide. It's a 1 million person city today. Like there's 1.4 million people living in the whole of fucking.
But it was apparently Tibet at one point. So
what was that, bro?
Apparently it was Tibet.
Tibet.
Yeah, just like a holy place. Millions and millions of churches, more churches than people.
Fucking who knows?
Here in New England, they tend to talk about lodges joining and being adjacent to each other, and then there being these kind of charters that are signed to combine the efforts of these lodges. Now, to me, I'm thinking these are actually floating flotillas that are kind of agreeing to come to port and dock next to each other for the winter, so to speak, and eventually get, there's enough backfill, or the neighboring city dumps all of its sewage into your reservoir, and so you all of a sudden, instead of floating on beautiful water, you're actually on material that you're. Yeah, my screen just glitched out there, though. I'm not sure if my mic did.
Yeah, dude. I think
Bernie.
What up?
BurnEye. What's up?
How's it going? What's up?
One of my heroes.
Oh, thank you.
One time
Stoops,
we'll do.
I've definitely seen you on stream here before, Stoops. Yeah.
One time, I'll come on a couple of times. I was a bit shy.
I'm trying I want to get Stefan on Real Science, Bernie, because he knows a lot of crazy science stuff. We're gonna get that going.
Absolutely. The more real science going on, the better.
The frozen finger of death, the clathrate gun, essentially, where if the water is the right chemistry and temperature, a little physical disturbance will basically turn a lake into Ice 9 real quick. Maybe that's how things got fossilized, or
Yeah, that's actually a very good possibility of how the catastrophism destroyed everything. Those mammoths and everything flash frozen. That makes sense.
I'm convinced when I look at like Antarctica that's what happened. You've got a very quick apparent quickness of the weather changes because of a hyper hot volcanic blast, seals in all of the moisture because it kills off all of the above fauna, and then this explains stellium-7's instant fossilization, instant petrification thing. So I mean, it just ties a lot of things together.
And the ice that forms on the bottom of the really big icebergs isn't the ice that you and I are familiar with, because it's formed under such density and there's things dissolved in the ice. So when you're drilling through it after it's flipped over a few times, it's hard to but the turquoise color in the background there, we're getting a little David Icke on the
I'm trying so hard to avoid this like music. The music's so bad. Viva Rock Vegas or something like that, and then there's pictures of these rocks behind me. I don't know.
I'd love to be in an airport, bro. Fucking hell, I haven't been on a plane for.
It's crazy. As soon as I get past, I'm gonna make a song about it, and it's gonna be like the greatest techno electronica song since Chariots of Fire. But it's gonna start out with trying to get to the airport and being stressed out, and then once you get past security and how you kind of like it in the airport. I could live here. Are you kidding me? It's chill.
Fucking, I love airports, bro. That was one of my favorite things, mate. Before the old CV. Good. The last plane I caught was the last plane out of Prague before you couldn't get out of Prague for fucking a year. And there was no one on it.
I saw them kicking up
$18 or $50 if you get them right. And like, they got rid of masks now. They're not just crazy anymore. There's still little silly things they do, but for the most part, it's pretty chill.
From what we
kicking the pregnant women with strollers out in the middle of the night because they don't have a ticket still?
Dude, I mean, nobody has time for anything. Like, they can't worry about drugs. They can't worry about like anything because all they have are people with dogs now. These like emotional support dogs pooping in the airport, and they're trying to figure out like, you don't have a smoking section, fine, but where's your dog gonna poop? So they have to put in like pooping sections for dogs at airports now. I can't wait till they let me have an emotional support chimpanzee, or just like maybe an idea chimpanzee or something, but just like you know what I mean, just around.
Hilarious.
Well, instead of traveling with a bodyguard, you'll travel with Spot and Spot's older brother, so to speak, and
That's true.
When they need to, they can do gymnastics and stack on top of each other, and like Transformers, they combine, and it all fit in your suitcase like Iron Man, you know?
I think so. I was talking to Dr. Longo from Old World, Florida, and the more I look into the Antarctica, Australia thing, there does seem to be a lot of connections to whatever culture was with these giant stone anchors. So connecting Atlantis, the top of the pyramid, right? Then you have to think about what the weather systems were like at that point. Whether
I've
or
got
not
a better theory than anchors for the ships that you're thinking of, but I like the subject
what are you talking
matter.
about? I was thinking about the stone anchors. If you saw the Old World Florida video, they've got stone anchors the size of a Hummer.
You think that's gonna like sneak by me?
I'm gonna throw out something a bit wild. But when we were on the maps as New Holland,
yes.
I reckon we were a big port city for the Dutch American Indian Company.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the thing. The Dutch companies pretended.
Australia.
The Dutch companies took over after Krakatoa. So after the explosion, after the paperwork's gone, and then they redraw the maps, but literally the maps have changed. We look at the land masses, and there are places that are no longer there, and there are new land masses that have formed from the volcanoes. I think I finally found a quiet enough place to do this. Oh, thank God.
Yes, exactly. And a little synchronicity. That's what I've been downloading a whole bunch of and getting together for a podcast are these old maps that show exactly that.
How do I solo myself?
Andreas is doing this to get, he can write off his whole trip now because this makes him a relatable vlogger that he's doing a post from the airport. Perfect.
You see, the star-studded Riviera operated on the northern end of the Las Vegas Strip from 1955 until 2015. The Rib was the first high-rise casino on Las Vegas Boulevard. Had a whooping 9 stories. The property played host to a long list of Hollywood films, including Ocean's 11, Casino in 1995, Vegas Vacation, and many others. So, you probably also want to check out La Concha, the La Concha Motel. It's funny that that's a motel. But you could get married right there, I think, right? Isn't that the thing? Forget. The Neon Museum, though. If you go to Vegas, go to the Neon Museum.
Right before you got there, they swapped out the signs from Truman Show that had like planes crashing. It's like, go back, don't travel, because that happened last time you tried to get on a plane, right? They shut the whole shit down.
It happens to me a lot, man.
That's what Putin does when he's trying to save someone.
I try to not feel like my life's a simulation. Instead, I'd like to feel like it's just really expensive CIA stuff. Because if it was everybody, that's not special. I like to feel special. You know what I mean? But I go to the airport and it's like, wow, they blocked all the flights to America just for me. That's how I like to feel.
That's it. I'm the same. I remember after 9/11, I was in Canada. It was like 2001 or something like that, like the end of the year. And I got to Vancouver Airport to come home, and I was only fucking 16 or something. And I forgot my itinerary. Remember those old itineraries that you would have to carry around, like thick as?
Oh, yeah.
I'd been there for like half a year or something like that, and then I didn't know where the fucking thing was. I rocked up, and they wouldn't let me on the plane because of this new security and shit, because I didn't have my itinerary, even though I had my passport and all this sort of shit. So I was like 16, 15. Oh, yeah, I was still 15, and I ended up missing that flight, and then there was no flights with any seats on them back to Australia, like for 2 weeks or something. And so I got like an insurance claim where I got to stay in a hotel, I got to stay in the Holiday Inn and go to restaurants every day and go shopping, do whatever I fucking wanted.
Quarantine before quarantine.
Yeah, dude.
You were just ahead of the curve.
But the one thing I had to go to the airport every day for the window where the flights were leaving to Australia, just in case someone didn't rock up or whatever. But this shit lasted for weeks, 2 weeks. I was just like this kid lost in fucking Vancouver.
Dude, that's a beautiful movie. I would totally watch that movie. Any movie about Canada is cool, but throw in Australian and it's just like a whole better thing.
Yeah. I
had this thing like I used to fly all the time. Like I don't remember the first time I flew because like I'd fly as a baby, But I remember flying like the first time by myself. I was like 9 years old, and I flew through Texas to Louisiana. Might have been almost 10. But back then in America, it's so convoluted. What's okay, what's not okay, what they can do for you, what they can't.
Right.
They're like, oh yeah, and long story short, there's a way to do anything in America. There used to be up until 2001.
Well, you used to be able to send your kids through the post, right? And we were like, that sounds ridiculous. And it's like, well, they stuck me on a plane and like trusted the stewardesses.
Yeah, it doesn't sound that ridiculous when you find out what they did to me, man. I mean, you had these like stoned out of their gourd Texan security TSAs driving golf carts at like drunk redneck speeds through the biggest George Bush airport, getting me to like some little room in the back of the airline that was held by the air. You know, it was just the whole thing that they had to do.
My parents left me and my little sister at the mall because they both thought we were going home with them. I'm like, I mean,
that's nice.
I'm lucky. I never thought I'd make it to 30.
Yeah, right. I'm surprised. It's again with the simulation. But then, so on my way back from Louisiana, I stop at a gator ranch and I buy a bunch of alligator meat, you know, because I want to bring that home with me. So I put it into this styrofoam cooler with ice boxes, and I bring it with me as a carry-on. I'm 10 years old, 9 or 10 years old, with a carry-on of a couple kilos of gator meat, and this was maybe like a year at the most before September 11th. This was like maybe 6 months or something like that before September 11th. And I just remember like how different the world was before that this kid could bring flesh, you know, like in a bag in an airplane. No one would ask questions.
It was just a Tuesday. Yeah. I mean,
go to
or whatever day it was. Yeah.
Go to an Australian port of entry, like at any airport, and you'll see a shit ton of crazy shit like that, bro, with all the Chinese people and stuff coming here.
Like, oh my God. Last year, I helped my buddy from
Australia, dude, have you seen how many bases we got here, man?
My buddy from West Africa showed up in San Francisco, and I had to pick him up at the airport, and then we went to where he'd gotten a crate airdropped in. And we go and we try open, like we're trying to get this crate in my car. There's no way, right? So we have to open this wooden crate and pull out all the stuff to put into my big van. And all these security people are watching me as I show up with this African guy, and we open up this crate and we're pulling out just like 100 goat hides and just the weirdest stuff. Like, and then just like big bags of these weird fruits that ferment that the monkeys get drunk off of that he brought with him. And it was just definitely the weirdest thing we'd ever done. But usually when you go to the airport, you know, you're thinking, oh man, and you forget like how crazy it is. Like the world, how crazy the world is. And it has to be in order to sustain people buying their goat skins or whatever the hell.
Dude, I became a master of smuggling tobacco back into Australia. Like from fucking, I'd go to Cambodia like once a year or once every couple of years. And I worked out the system so well that I would just be able to bring as much back as I wanted. Like my whole bag would be full of cigarettes and
brutal.
Because
it was like $20 a pack back then in Australia, right?
Yeah, fucking. And all I'd do was I would declare everything. So I'd be like, I got pharmaceutical drugs. I got fucking everything bad that you can have on my declare list. And then I'd go through customs and I'd be like to the dude, like, oh yeah, I was real worried about my shoes and shit because I was walking in the fields and I didn't want to bring it back, the parasite from fucking cows to Australia and shit. And then I'd be like, oh yeah, and then I got this straw hammock. Is this okay? Rah, rah. And then I'd be like, and I have 1 carton of cigarettes. Can I pay the tax? And the guy'd just be like, you're a fucking weirdo, dude. Like sometimes people come back with skulls in their bag and shit. Like, get out of here. Don't worry about the tax. It's like, you just act like you're hella concerned about the whole situation. You know, it's
that's for real though. The kinds of stuff, man. I don't even want to get into it, but like, yeah, I definitely remember some weird stuff. And also coming back from South America and going into South America. One time I brought 2 kilos of quinoa with me to Chile because I'd been to Chile before, and the first time I went, I didn't bring any quinoa because I figured, you know, whatever. Like, it's South America. There's going to be lots of quinoa. Apparently, they sell it all. You can get it in Bolivia. You can get it for too much money in Chile. But I got it at Costco way cheaper and just brought it with me as my carry-on.
Well, what is due unto Caesar, you give unto Caesar. That's it. That's the cash crop for the area, or at least provides the cover for other cash crops.
I'm a weird guy. That's all I have no logic.
It's very labor intensive to do by hand as well.
Don't mess with our maple syrup, eh?
But to harvest like a bowl of
quinoa, you know, like, because they try to charge you for the alcohol. I was saying this earlier. You bring like these little bottles, and you know, I will always have them in my fanny pack if I'm in a plane for 4 days or 2 days or something like that. You bring a couple of those little organic vodkas that you can pour into the tomato juice they give you, and you save $13, right? Usually, or whatever. But this time the lady told me, she's like, got really German because you're on your way back from Minnesota, and they're, you know how they are. They like to follow rules, even if it means people die. So they're just like, "Oh, do you know that's a $10,000 fine? You don't have any more, do you?" And I was like, "I just brought the one," which I try not to lie usually, but I was just kind of shocked in the moment. And then she's just like, "Yeah, well, if you do, just don't bring them out anymore today on the plane." So it's like, I don't know, because apparently they've got these laws, but forever, as I've flown, no one's ever bothered me like about anything. I get away with my life. I gotta get a pat down every time. Went to the airport, say, "Can I opt out?" And I just do the pat down. Never do the X-ray. Never had a problem. So I don't know. Like, the whole airport thing is very different to me than for other people, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always thought there's more crazy shit going on than me when I'm going through. Like sometimes in Singapore airport, it's always a little scary in Singapore, or something like that, just in case you fucking left a bag of weed in your pocket or some shit like that, like it's
right,
like,
yeah. You don't want to get that basketball girl treatment, right?
Yeah,
when I was in Africa, one of the guys that I was traveling with explained that if there was ever an issue with the authorities, he would just explain to them, like, "No, I am ganja. So if you're telling me that ganja is illegal, then I'm illegal. So take me away, and you'll be fine as the tourist." And I was like,
just
okay,
fucking Jedi.
That's what was like the mentality. He had locks, and the friend that was with him made fun of him for nursing off of his mom until he was like 7 or something. But
I've tried to pull the Rasta card on the cops back in the day, but they didn't buy it, bro. In Australia, they were just like, "Nah, mate, you're paying the fine." Yeah,
I mean, that's the other thing that kind of blows my mind again, because I think about what's legal and in terms of your rights, you know what I mean? And I'm not like a huge like you got to be a sovereign citizen, but it just seems to me pretty crazy how illegal it is to give anyone trouble for anything. Like, you have so many human rights, you have so many constitutional rights. They all don't they, like, they all count towards, they should render most of the laws null and void. So the only reason you're dealing with them is because you choose to. Like, it does feel like that way.
When I was younger, I was on a constant payment plan with the fucking police for weed, right? Because they just, once they got their sniffer dogs, and they'd be like all in the city and shit, like at the train station or whatever, and every time they'd just get me, and I was paying them, like, I'd pay it back slowly. So, but I was on the $25 a week like debt to those guys for fucking half my life, dude. And then now they get this fake ass, like, the worst weed ever, like legal, like medicinal weed in Australia, like the one we get from the chemist is absolutely abhorrent. And it's just like, you just pay $200 and now you got like a fucking get out of free tub. So you can have
what's the deal with the legal stuff in Adelaide, man?
Like, go anywhere. What's that, brother?
What's the deal with the legal stuff in Australia? Because I've heard people get it very hard to get a prescription.
Nah, it's easy, man. All you got to do is pay money. Like, that's it.
It's like a phone consult, right?
It's fucking it's a phone consult. You call one guy, he hooks you up with a doctor or whatever, and then the doctor calls you. You pay him $200, and then they prescribe all this absolute crap to you, dude. It's the worst shit ever. Like, the worst shit I've ever smoked, man. Like, and I've smoked a lot.
Yeah, it wasn't
still
that
good
way
to
in
have
Boston
a jar of it if you get pulled over. Keep the real stuff in there. Oh, it's medicinal. Man.
Yeah, that's what I figure. But yeah, who knows, dude? I don't even know, man. But yeah, that the stuff is, when I smoked it, you know what it reminded me of? Like that one time in my life when I was young, when like my girlfriend was like, "Why don't you try that new weed from Happy High Herbs? That's like, synthetic weed, so you don't have to worry about driving and shit." And I remember, like, I was like, "Fucking, I don't know, man." And then she got me a bag of it, like a little bag of this shit, fucking synthetic shit. And I was like, I smoked a bong of it, and like the spirit of actual weed was like, "Never do that again, dude." Like, because I'd already been smoking other weed that day, and I never did it again. And then you just see what happened to people that fucking got on that spice shit and all that stuff. Like, what a fucking prank, dude. You know?
One of the Patriots players ended up at the police
station. Did you ever try the mugwort from Happy Herbs?
Sorry, bro. Wait,
Did you
Andreas,
ever
the
try the
airport looks
mug
really
walk from
busy.
Happy Herbs?
The airport looks really busy, Andreas.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Look at that freaking rabbit. What the freaking heck, dude? This freaking rabbit right here.
Year of the rabbit, bro.
I remember Alex Jones on one of his broadcasts was like, I drove, 25 miles to work today and I did not pass a single soul. And he's like, okay, carry on. It's like, you just got to do his broadcast, I guess. But like, okay, maybe the world ended. I just didn't get the message. Well, I mean.
A lot of these shows I've been watching recently, these Korean horror shows about apocalypses and zombies and things like that. COVID is like the thing now. Every show is about a virus that destroys everything. But there's this new show called Sweet Tooth. Have you guys seen Sweet Tooth yet?
Yeah.
Sweet Tooth is way worth your time. So basically, it's a comic book from Britain that predicted a virus that destroys everything, except it also predicts that a bunch of kids will be born right around the same time that are mutants. Some of them have antlers, some of them look like bunny rabbits. There's this little truffle pig girl that can smell out fear and crime and everything like that. It's absolutely amazing, completely amazing. But yeah, it's totally about COVID, but also mind control and MK Ultra, and it's great. I think it's
always believing them. Sorry.
I'm seeing a super sticker. Bernie, thank you for keeping me on my toes here. Let me see here. Michael Cruchley. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Very nice of you. If I missed anybody else in super chats, I apologize.
Australia, are you in? Australia, I think? Or is that just the accent? Yeah.
Yeah.
The water
man, I'm Australia.
is like unnaturally blue. Go ahead, Andrea. Sorry.
I was just saying they're from Adelaide. It's like both of them. Tom and Stoops are from Adelaide. And Stoops makes all these videos. He's found a bunch of 100-year-old footage of Australia, of Adelaide, that they're trying to shut him down from showing, like, public domain footage, because he's like, yeah, add this together. And he was doing it kind of as a joke until it became, like, pretty obvious that they're not laughing about it,
Well, it was just like a bit of a spoof on Levy.
Michael. Oh, you're a good man. We love you, Michael. Thank you so much. I'll use that to buy alcohol. No, I'm just kidding. I
respect John. I respect John Levy. You know what I mean? Like, but you're not gonna just do the same thing as everyone's doing. In my mind, it's just like, just in this one zone that I'm in, it's just in the whole world that I've been to, it doesn't make sense more than anywhere. Like other places, like I said, I can accept when I go to Europe that shit looks fucking really old. I can accept even like in the Americas and stuff and everywhere else. But then what we're told, just no way, dude. Don't tell me you rocked up here in 1847 and just fucking built all this shit, and then it's like 1902.
A lot of the classical architecture you see, in my opinion, is a reassembly of a graveyard city that was made by some ancient seafaring culture, like Kingston in Jamaica.
They just put a pergola on all of these buildings in Australia.
Now I got 22, which is even better. Thanks, Michael.
The only reason you'd make rectilinear streets in an urban setting would be so it would be easy to find your way around, but the nature of living around other humans tends to be that you need to be secretive. So in my opinion, when you see a rectilinear layout, it's because it was a funerary or agricultural.
I hate that you're an architect and you still have to say rectal. I get it. It's part of the deal. Look, so here's my problem is I looked at Ohio.
Yeah,
when I got to Ohio and I saw how they did stuff, I realized that rectilinear and cubism, serfs, it's all because of Owenism. Owenism used that to control people. Wealthy people never did that. You always have these cul-de-sacs and roundabouts. People with money like to hide behind a roundabout. Almost every one of these houses that had 2 stories in Ohio from the Prohibition era, they were all in these weird like curves and stuff with the woods and stuff, as opposed to
cow paths,
the people working for them, who all lived in these small squalors next to each other so that you could hear someone beating their family next door if you had to, right? I feel like that's built into the system with these rectilinear.
If you look, I don't know.
You could locate the grave plot of your ancestor according to like an old map. It would still be at that exact place.
Our city is a perfect grid. It's a perfect four square, and it's got parklands, like a belt of parklands around it and shit. But dude, yeah, to be honest, when I go to like the university and I go to the museum and I go to like even the old courthouses and like any of the buildings, like they just don't even look.
If you follow the church, if you follow St. Peter's, and you follow from the park where the statues are of the cross, and you look at it from the concrete pillar standing area, it actually lines up perfectly the statue of that huge cross with the church. If you stand on the concrete pillar in the park,
Yeah, you put the funeral.
If you look at it straight from St. Petersburg, it lines up perfectly.
It's
keep
actually
the holy water pure. You know?
It's actually gravy though. Like the whole of fucking North Adelaide and stuff like that. It's like these old majestic mansion type houses and shit, and that's all fucking there in the 19.
You looked into the
little bunny foo foo hopping.
Did you look into the family murders back in the 1980s or whatever it was, and the 100%. One victim who got away from the house on Victoria Avenue?
Right.
And that house was the one who got away said that he was moved from underground.
Yeah.
Yo, Andreas found Big Chungus.
I had an Australian PE teacher from Adelaide when I was in 3rd or 4th grade who told us all kinds of weird stories, scary stories from Adelaide, like girls getting kidnapped and like hitchhikers driving them off cliffs and all this crazy stuff.
To be honest, dude, you're not even fucking allowed to talk about it, eh? Like all the boomer generation don't talk about it, dude, and they all know what happened, like my parents' generation, all that stuff, and there's like thousands of people who woke up like after being drugged out or whatever, and like woke up.
Right, it's like the MK Ultra. It's equivalent to Santa Cruz in a lot of ways. I mean, Santa Cruz was the Zodiac killer, serial killer capital of the world, but Adelaide might put them run for their money if you hear some of the weird stories.
Like Tom said before, like, you know, it was the first town that was settled by free settlers, like with no convicts and all that sort of shit. So a lot of like rich people who had something to fucking not want to be in England anymore came over here, and that they stepped in. But yeah, it's actually very touchy to talk about it here in front of people, because you're getting someone will come fuck you up, man, for actually saying the shit. I got years ago, I used to be friends with a prostitute.
Thanks, John. We love you too.
And she was like the most famous one in Adelaide. Like her name was Grace Bellevue, and she told me a bunch of shit. And we actually recorded all this stuff with her. And she said, "Don't ever release it unless I die. And if I die, like it's not like I didn't do it myself. Like she got Epstein or whatever." And then I went away for a couple of months. And I came back and she was dead, like, and then no one fucking said shit about it, and she was just found from like a drug overdose or something. But she had like new generation info on how it all works now and shit. I mean, I don't want to go into it right now; it's pretty fucked up. But yeah, in the old days, like that Von Neumann guy, all that shit. Like,
wait. I mean, give me a little taste of what's going on, though, right? Like you're telling me, because you got this idea of these British mind control victims, and you've got people that say they're free men. I want to know.
In this, you mean in like the new time or the old time? Like the old time was like obviously just ritualistic shit they were doing to them. Like the stuff they were doing to kids was so disgusting that like they took a news reporter's son by accident. This dude called Rob Kelvin, and like
that's
when they
family murders that I was just talking about.
And they just showed him the Bohemian Grove down under, huh?
He was gone for months, bro. And then when they found him, he had like
that was dark
and shit. They had
they found him in a drainage container underground.
Damn,
absolutely crazy shit, dude. And then
he was only in his teens.
They couldn't keep doing it the